Hello, welcome to the gallery at Lakeland Community College. My name is Mary Urbis. I am the gallery director and exhibition curator. Today we're going to walk through the Visual Arts Faculty Exhibition, which is on display through January 25th, 2023. So today we're going to walk through the exhibition, which includes 13 of our art faculty members who are creating works in the Fine Arts Division, Photography and Graphic Design. And we are going to start the tour in the big open area of the gallery with the artwork of Mark Del Balso.
Hello, my name is Mark Del Balso, and I would first like to thank Mary Urbis for setting this up as far as this space for me to display some of my ideas for students. So the first one, work in progress in work, was something that was a project for me that became sidetracked. So, sometimes the most promising projects can be sidetracked, leaving the most deserving clients to wait. One such project for me has been an illustrated children's book I wish to create for the client of a friend. Sandy Savoca wrote this wonderful story for her grandchildren and wants to share it with them. For this reason, my goal is to illustrate this book as a work-in-progress installation here. The 24 pages plus cover book spreads will be updated with progressive overlays from rough sketches to color comprehensives in the weeks ahead. So again, this project has been coming along really well, and we started out with just a copy and some notes, some various notes here. These sorts of things are oftentimes, developed with a client, just notes about what will be on that page, and that's a good first step. And then you start to visualize it by creating rough sketches. And again, I left the notes on here because that's in meetings with clients, sometimes you need to be reminded of things, especially for a larger project. But also here's just a very rough sketch of what Kelsey the butterfly would look like, and it needed to be developed further, and made editable so that Kelsey's expressions could change. You could have a smiling face, or the legs, for instance. Here there were no legs. I thought, okay, it's flying, but then later in the story, Kelsey has to land on things and flies in wind and upside down and all sorts of other things. So here's the legs, the way that they worked out. And sometimes the simplest detail could take a lot of time once you consider all of the possibilities for it. So the inspiration for the next piece, Don't Just Sit There, came from class. And it was a situation with playing Scrabble, and one of the students was not able to, in the time allotted, draw anything. And it reminded me of a situation where I was in, and this became a part of it. So I tried to put down advice that I would give to someone who was in my situation, because as I was there sitting thinking, that's hence the thinker here, it became important that I actually just do something. So a friend walked behind me and whispered, "Don't just sit there." And that's the way it starts out. And then my advice is, do something, relax with a few deep breaths, stretch in place, subtly tense and release muscles. Imagine yourself in a beautiful and comfortable place. Take a moment to clear your mind as a short break. Do this while sitting by relaxing any tension away while focusing on your breath. Well, here was an interesting need to tie these elements together. So the words creative corner were reinvented or scrabbled in this case to say reconnect and crop. So the concept of reconnect, I thought of this fire pit, just how sometimes people can reconnect over a fire, or just the concept of things becoming new again or rejuvenating. So the term crop, creates something more in terms of graphic design. It relates more to what we do in our business, just to focus on what is important in our message. As far as this, crop area, the idea is to focus on that thing that is your subject, the thing that you want to convey most. In our business, we're using tools of rapetographs and markers. It's still, even though, as you see over there, that the computer can really generate some nice color roughs for us. The idea here is that we're learning the methods that have been tried and true for many years and how they came to be what they are now. And you can use those to come up with some very creative concepts. So these are actually from various things that were put together and cropped into this display. I included the NBC logo here, which was something that I made with Harlan Guthrie at DesignWorks and Mentor as a student. And we made a series of these as tests, and you can see here that it didn't quite work out well when we used that sort of adhesive with the color on the back. So Bud recently passed, so I put this in honor of him here today. And my gratitude to he and Christine for all that they taught me, making it, and actually teaching me how to teach, I think is a good way of describing what they did for me.
Hi, I'm Jane Weimer, and I teach jewelry metals here at Lakeland Community College. I began the jewelry metals program at Lakeland in 1981 after receiving a Master of Fine Arts degree from Kent State University, where I studied under Marianne Scher and Mel Somrosky. While at Lakeland, I have taught Jewelry 1 and 2, enameling, Drawing 1 and 2, and Art Fundamentals. My artwork is inspired by many muses, but I believe artwork should be an expression of emotion or elicit emotion. My work in both jewelry and small sculpture includes such personal representation as portraits or pieces for family, weddings, or engagements. Personal art, like jewelry, can help define the owner. Many of my ideas emerge when I find an interesting stone or in the interpretation of the natural world and folklore. Sometimes I am interested in making a statement, such as "Save the Honeybees," which is a wearable wall art piece displayed here. I also enjoy exploring new techniques or experimenting with combinations of techniques to create unique and whimsical themes. My work and teaching begins first with fabrication, which is the manipulation of sheet metal and/or metal wire, and are shown with the following techniques. Chasing creates line, shape, and texture, and is done by making individual strikes on the metal with a steel punch, and can be seen in sterling leaves, earrings, soft petals, black earrings, and sterling druzy, a neck piece. Piercing is done by drilling holes and then sawing out shapes, thus exposing a variety of positive and negative shapes. Examples are sterling butterfly and butterfly wings too. Acid etching makes use of a resist and acid, which eats into the surface of the metal and gives unique, rich textures. Examples can be found in etched jungle leaves, earrings, and etched fern, cuff. Stone setting can be accomplished with the use of a bezel, which is the metal that surrounds a stone and secures the stone to the piece. Examples are square agate neckpiece, pink opals, a neckpiece set, but prongs are used to hold the stone in place in sterling druzy neckpiece. Another technique I incorporate in my work and in class is lost wax casting. This technique is used to create shapes and textures that might not be accomplished by traditional fabrication techniques. First, a wax model is created or sculpted in wax, or in some cases, an existing material such as cotton lace is saturated with wax. Next, the wax model is encased in a mold material, after which the wax is melted out or lost, and molten metal is injected into the mold. After the piece is cast, the mold material is removed and the metal piece is cleaned and polished. Examples shown here are the pink flower ring, silver rose ring, and antique lace neckpiece. The techniques that incorporate the most use of color is enameling, in which powdered glass is fused to copper or fine silver. usually with the use of a kiln at about 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. The powdered glass can be opaque or transparent and allows for an infinite variety of colors used in the many different techniques. Cloisonne is a technique in which wires are used to separate colors and therefore creates both line and shape. Examples are Moonlit Mountains, a neckpiece using transparents on fine silver, red-green cloisonne neckpiece, and cloisonne keepsake box using transparent and opaque enamels. Limoges is a painterly technique and may include the use of painting brushes, stencils, and/or sgraffito. An example is Fancy Irises, a neckpiece set. Grisaille is also painterly, but uses black and whites and values of gray. An example is white on black earrings. As you view the pieces in this show, please see how they represent these many different techniques. Over the years, I have shown my work in art shows and galleries around the country and continue to do craft fairs in the Cleveland area. But teaching has always been a very important part of my work. I believe that the relationship between student and instructor, the exchange and sharing of knowledge and inspiration, is the foundation of good pedagogy. Working as an artist and teacher is challenging, rewarding, exciting, inspiring, demanding, and fulfilling. At the end of the day, I know it is something I love to do.
Hi, my name is Wade Gagich, and I am the lab coordinator of the Photography and Graphic Design department. I also teach Photography 1105, which is basic photography, and then I also teach color photography. I put 2 pieces in this year, and this year I decided to put work in that shared the light with the piece called Date Night, where we're at the Cleveland Museum of Art in Wade Oval area. I often tell my students that some of the best times to shoot are when everyone's out eating dinner, and this was kind of that time where the light's really low, but it's still light enough to get some good highlights, and the reflection off the water was just really pretty. So that's why I chose to put this piece in. The other piece, which is actually right outside my bedroom, there was a ton of these plastic spools, and it was just really odd. I'd never seen them there before, and I haven't seen them since. So one of my other photographer friends said, well, why don't we do something with this? And I was totally excited to do that. The piece is actually way longer than what you see in the gallery. It's probably 4 times wider because it's a panorama of the whole scene, and I just decided to crop that one area with the subject in it. And I just thought it was a really interesting piece. It was hard to get the subject on those plastic spools, and it was just a really fun time to document something so strange with, just a strange position and position of the subject and everything about that. So I just thought it was interesting to look at.
My name is David Samiak. I'm an adjunct faculty member here at Lakeland Community College in the photography department. I teach basic digital photography, which is a black and white class. I teach commercial photography, and I teach portrait photography here. My pictures, I have 8 of them this year, are divided up into black and white and color. And starting with the color section, my first photograph was called A Type of Dare. I'm not sure if I should have just entitled it the Blue A, because that's what's more dominant in the shot, but I do the dare thing because it was actually given to me on a dare. An art director that I worked with, we must have been having a slow period, just walked in with a box full of these old linotype or linoleum block types and threw them on my desk and said a good photographer could get a really nice shot out of this, and walked out the door. And this is what I ended up with. It's a commercial shot, large format photography on transparency. The print you see here is a scan from the transparency. I like the new technology. In certain ways it's better, in certain ways it's a little worse than what we used to have, but being able to make prints consistently is one of the advantages. The second photograph here is actually a shot of a toy box, prosaically entitled Toy Box, and it is literally my toy box. It's got written on the side of it 1958. My dad built it. Yeah, integrating some of the stuff from your past into present day photographs is a good thing. They tell you in writing classes to write what you know. In imaging, it's kind of the same deal. You have some things on hand that you like, and you want to present them in a way that other people can see them, you take pictures of them. The next two photographs going around the corner are from a young lady who lived across the hall from me in college and was kind enough to let me photograph her for my classes. And again, speaking digital photography and scanning and presenting, these pictures have never been seen on a wall before because they were 35mm slides, and I scanned them on the college's scanner, made prints, the first time I've ever seen them large. And another reason why you take pictures. This young lady probably, let's see, she has 2 sons now, and they're both probably a decade older than what she was in this photograph. So take pictures, remember what things were like. And the last one on the wall here is a photograph of an art director that I used to work with when I worked at the May department stores, which some of you may remember. And these were rendered in what we called Polaroid transfer. You shot a Polaroid picture, but instead of those, these weren't SX70 Polaroids for those of you getting confused. These were Polaroids that you would run through a set of rollers and then peel away, if you remember the very old Polaroids. Well, if you transfer the Polaroid onto a piece of watercolor paper instead of just the shiny paper that they gave you, you got kind of an interesting effect. So that is what we ended up with here. It's one of my favorite pictures. Now going over to the black and white, we've got 3 photographs here. And there is a park in the center of Oberlin that's very pretty. And the pagoda was built many years ago. It's been used as, I don't know, a concert facility, as a meeting place. Just meet me at the pagoda. And I happened to be there one day, and I shot a handheld panorama of the pagoda. And it was a nice day, the light was nice, and it turned out very well, I think. And then there's a picture there of the trees. It's called Bathed in Leaves. And it is in the same park in Oberlin. And I just happened to be wandering around, and if you've never seen photographs like this before, you just lie on your back, and whatever's in front of you when you look up at the sky is what you photograph. You get usually a very nice backlight effect. In this case, that's what I got. I crawled under a canopy of a tree and just kept shooting pictures until I found something that I liked. And the third one is a picture of a brick wall full of crusty old peeling paint with a stripe on it. And it was something that I shot way back in the late 70s, early 80s, when I was taking a seminar on the zone system. Most of you will not know what that means, but any of you old photography people will smile when you hear that. And it was a perfect subject because there were very dark areas, there were very light areas. You had to contain the entire range within the capabilities of the film. And that's what it was. It was an exercise, and it was very, very interesting to look at.
Hi, my name's Carol Adams, and I teach drawing and art history. And I'm a fiber artist and enamelist and a mixed media artist long before there were any. This piece is a very repurposed piece. I did it a long time ago, and then I decided I was going to paint it, and I made a special enamel for the middle of it and stitched and painted and played around with it. So it's kind of a repurposed piece just for the fun of it. And so it didn't go away because I liked the rhythm of it, but I didn't like the old-fashioned version of it. So it's just kind of a fun one. The one on the right here is the Peninsula Golf Course in the moonlight. I went down there and all the trees were these perfect cones, very abstract. And enamel is very interesting because when you put white enamel on something and then fire very high, it starts to turn green or blue. So I was playing around with that. So it would be in the snow in the moonlight. And that golf course was always very interesting to me because it reminds me of Grant Wood's drawings where the trees all make those perfect cones and rows and things, and I loved it down there. It's now become part of the park. It all grown up in weeds and not there anymore. Sad. On the left is a bowl. It's big. It's 12 inches across. I can't even buy those in copper anymore. And I was using white liquid enamel on it, making a huge splash and then playing around with colors on top of it. And I've always particularly liked that bowl. And then underneath it is jewelry. I have a whole line of enamel jewelry, mostly animals. I started off with a few fish and now I do over 300 of them. I also do things called travelers, trucks, buses, cars, planes. So those are my two lines with them. And they're kind of interesting because I wanted something dimensional and there wasn't such a thing. So I cut them out of copper foil, I shape them, I put them in my copper plating tank, they get thicker, and then I enamel them. So I kind of developed my own process of shaping them and making them dimensional.
Hi, I'm Grace Simonin, and I teach art appreciation at Lakeland. In the faculty show, I have work from my series, Pieces and Parts. Everyone is made up of pieces and parts, psychologically from experiences or people we know, biologically from cells and atoms, as well as historically how we fit into a culture or society. Our personal history makes us who we are and allows for connection. I'm interested in what connects us, yet lets us be different. As an artist, I explore my world by using materials from my life transformed through paint. My work blurs the lines between high and low art by using everyday objects and materials. And in art historical contexts, I am pushing the boundaries of painting by using dimensionality and non-traditional materials. Definitions and rules can often be limiting and inaccurate, and I'm embracing this through material play. The materials I use do not stand as I find them, but are transformed. By doing this, the viewer is confronted with new possibilities. In this series, I'm using fabric scraps, sewing embellishments, and pieces of clothing, as well as baby blankets. These pieces and parts are left over from previous projects and were either collected by me, given to me by my mother, or part of my grandmother's collection. This work reflects 4 generations from my grandmother, mother, myself, and my children. The cloth and embellishments passed through time, now in my hands. Material play is a strong element in my work. It is important to me that these pieces and parts are from my history as well as refuse. They are discarded, but they come together to form something more than the sum of their parts. They are transformed. Each element is another layer, another piece and part of a whole. I blend them together and transform them with paint, creating harmony and at the same time struggle through layering. The beginning of the process is random, yet informed by previous work. I pick pieces and parts to arrange. Then they are glued to the painting surface with latex paint. The paint is the glue holding the work together. After it dries, layers of paint are added to develop the work. Each step leads to the next. The end is never planned out. It is an intuitive process led by deliberate decisions. The process mirrors life and is my way of trying to understand its fluid nature.
My name is Michael Kinkoff. I teach Intro to Graphic Design, but one of my main passions outside of school is photography. I used to work in the photo department here at Lakeland when I was going to school, and I picked up just about everything I know from Lakeland in regards to photography, and I pursued it as a passion ever since. The photos you see here were taken at my local Metro Park using a Sony full-frame digital camera.
My name is Derek O'Brien. I'm a professor of fine arts here at Lakeland Community College. I teach ceramics and sculpture. I have 3 ceramic pieces in the faculty show this year. All are ceramic, and they were fired in the raku process. Each piece is a combination of multiple pieces. 2 of them are assembled and 1 is not. And the reason that I did that is so the viewer can imagine how they would stack a piece. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Copeland. I am professor of graphic design at Lakeland Community College. I have been participating in the faculty art show since 2012. It's really the first time I've ever participated in a gallery type setting. As a graphic designer, you know, we often don't produce artwork that is sort of gallery wall appropriate, but it was really fun for me because I tend to have a lot of hobbies outside of my design work. My husband and I do a lot of photography, especially film photography, so being able to print those images in a size that is sort of larger and then hang them on a gallery wall is pretty exciting, just to be part of the other photographers and artists in the show. The other thing, you know, I've done a lot of different works printed on textiles, and then during COVID, because we had sort of everyone was shut down, there was a lot of opportunities for online learning. And I saw a class on Instagram, I believe, for weaving. And I thought, why not? You know, why not learn something else? I sew and I knit. So I started weaving, and I really fell in love with it. So I started with smaller pieces, and then I bought a bigger loom. So the pieces that I had in the show this year were 2 of my larger sort of rug/tapestries, incorporating geometric shapes, but there's still, I think, an interesting level of design in all of the crafts. So in photography, I'm thinking about, you know, still thinking about layout and composition and contrast and balance, and then in weaving, geometric shapes, how to fit the shapes into the design that I want. So I think I always tell my students it all comes full circle. You know, even though you're practicing graphic designer and you work on the computer, it doesn't mean you still can't use your hands and create other objects that are visually interesting, that use skills that you learn in the classroom.
Hi, my name's Chris Berry, and I teach painting and drawing here at Lakeland, and been here for quite a few years and really enjoy teaching. My work is pretty much abstract for the most part, and I always try to think about composition in terms of movement and color, balance. These are all elements that sort of come into play when I'm working in the studio. And for the most part, I start out with some sort of a notion of going in a certain direction with a painting, but I kind of let the painting kind of take on its own life, and I think it's more fun that way. And I try to do that with my students too in the painting classes, is to just sort of get started with some color and then just sort of let the stuff kind of wander around on a canvas, which is what I do. And I use a lot of palette knife work and some brush work. I guess as far as inspiration, it's everything. I mean, I'm inspired a lot by my students. It's fun to be here teaching. There's a number of different pieces in the show this year of mine, and some of them are a break and going in a new direction where I'm using big panels of like solid color. And so I started doing that instead of doing the typical sort of swipes and multiple color things. So I kind of limited my color palette and did some paintings with bigger panels. And I'm real happy with the way the latest stuff is coming out. So that's kind of the direction I'm headed in now. And it's a little bit of a different sort of swing or a different sort of turn than what I've been doing. So that part of it for me is exciting, that when you are sort of open to try new stuff and just see where it'll take you. And that's what I also try to do when I'm in my painting classes, is get the students to try stuff and get them out of their comfort zone. Not completely, but get them to try some new stuff. And it's difficult for myself to do that, to get out of your comfort zone and try stuff in a new direction. That's what I did this time with the work that's in the faculty show.
Hi, my name is Yuan Chen. I teach in the digital photography in the Lakeland Community College. This image I took on the 4x5 large format camera in black and white film. So those reflect my as the Chinese immigrant in the United States over 10 years.
Thank you for coming along on this tour today. I hope you enjoyed the exhibition. The next exhibition that's coming up is From Woman 16, which is a exhibition that I am curating, and it features artwork that were created by women, of women, and about women. Thank you very much, and have a great day.